Hi everyone! Today I'll be showing you how to make a cup in Maya. So you see I'm going to create in Polygon primitives. I'm going to turn on interactive creation. This will make your life a lot easier later on. Next I'll be creating a cylinder. So I'm dragging across and up, and you see I'm going to change the shade and smooth so it's easier to see. Next I'm going to be centering it by setting X, Y, and Z to 0, then setting the radius and height. Radius to 4, height to 10, and also adjusting the subdivisions, height 8. Next I will be going to duplicate special. So I'm going to set it to be a translate of 10, then I'm going to apply it, and this duplicates my cylinder. Next I'm going to be moving the cylinder so that it goes inside the other cylinder. You'll see why really soon. So I centered it by setting the X position to 0, and once you're in the wireframe, I'm going to show you that there are in fact two cylinders nested inside of each other. So I'm going to scale the inner cylinder so you can see the difference. Next, I will be dragging up the cylinder through the top. So once I have the smaller cylinder just barely peeking above the other one, I'm going to be stretching it slightly. For the purposes of clarity, I'm going to be using fewer hotkeys and clicking on the buttons off to the side for positioning, rotating, and scaling. So there you go, I have my smaller cylinder with the top peeking out of the bigger one, and I'm going to go to Mesh, Booleans, and Intersection. So what happened with that was that we cut out from the bigger cylinder the volume of the smaller cylinder, which leaves an empty cavity which looks like a cup. So next I'm going to show you how to make the handle. So right now you can see that we have our nice subdivisions, so all these nice squares around the cylinder. I'm going to go into the right context menu. So what this looks like is that I'm going to hold down my right mouse button down, and this allows me to get this really cool menu, and I'm going to go to face. I'm going to turn off my soft selection. By default it should be off, but my settings are kind of weird. So turn off soft selection, and now everything should be all set. So I'm going to choose one of the faces for the handle. That seems like a good height. And I am going to extrude it. So edit mesh, extrude. You can also use Control E. So I'm going to extrude it, and there's also a really nice window off to the side that I can use. So I'm going to just type in 4 for local translate Z. And then I'm going to make the divisions 4. Divisions make it easier to edit things in more finer detail later on. So there you go, I extruded one of my faces. I'm going to do the same thing to this bottom one right here. And then mesh, extrude. There I go. I'm going to make that 4 as well, and divisions 4. Actually, I'm going to make it 3 units and 3 divisions, just because handles are usually kind of curved. So the next thing we're going to be doing after I adjust the bottom part of the handle is that we're going to be connecting them. But before we do that, we'll need another extrude. So you can see I'm going to click that face up there, and I am going to go to edit mesh again and extrude. I'm going to drag that down, edit my local translate Z, and I'm going to stretch it a bit more, maybe 6. And then I'm going to increase the divisions again. And I'm also going to offset it a bit, so when I glue the two parts of the mesh together, it'll be easier to see where the vertices are. This is just for my own sake. Alright, so now I've got this little gap that I want to glue together. I'm going to go into wireframe so it's easier to see where I want to glue it. And then I'm going to go into vertex mode, once again using the right context menu by holding down my right mouse button. I'm going to select those vertices, and then I'm going to go into, I believe it's mesh, going to select them, mesh, or never mind, it's edit mesh. I'm going to go to merge, and then I'm going to increase the distance threshold to 1. So that just kind of glues it to the nearest vertex. So there you go. It's one, it's glued together. And then I'm going to adjust these vertices right here to flatten them out so it doesn't look strangely crooked. So I'm going to use a scaling tool to align them, and then I'm just going to push them down with that transform tool. Alrighty, looking pretty good. So at this point in the video, you have your basic mug already completed. So if you'd like, feel free to stop right here. And if you continue to watch until the end of the video, for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to be making the mug a bit fancier. So something you would see looks more like a real life mug. So as you can see, I'm going to use my soft selection tool to kind of round out the handle of the mug. And feel free to watch this at 2x speed if you're on YouTube if you want to get the gist of it. But I'm just going to be rearranging and arranging a lot of these edges and vertices along the side of the mug. And as you see later on, as you get more comfortable with Maya, there's a lot of different ways to do this. I would say that soft selection is one of the more visually appealing ways to round things out to begin with, but there are a lot of, in my opinion, better things later on. For example, there's these things called deformers that you can do to round things out. What that looks like is that you could have, say, the handle of the mug, and you could have this stick or like the spline that influences how it's shaped and go from there, which might be a better option or more efficient than what I'm currently doing right now. But this is for the purpose of visualization. So I just want to show you guys how the tool works and what you can do with it. It's kind of hard to adjust the soft selection tool sometimes to get it exactly how you want it. Kind of comes with experience as well as just fiddling with it a lot. And you can see right here that I'm just turning it off because it's not doing what I want it to do. So I'm just going to arrange these edges manually. Yep, that looks good to me. So I'm going to start with the bottom now. I'm going to do some sort of the same thing. Just going to arrange them piece by piece. So just to review, just because right now nothing really is going on, Q is your select, W is your move, E is your rotate, and R is your scale. So like I mentioned, this is very similar to what you would be doing for games like Dota and League. So for you gamers out there, it's very intuitive to have your fingers positioned there anyways to begin with. And I usually have my thumb on the Alt key, which allows me to quickly orbit and pan easily. So you can see that when I'm dragging on the blue background, I'm either orbiting or panning. This allows me to have really fine control over the view I have in my object. So where you see the mesh or the object, that panel is called a viewport. And that blue gradient in the background, that's the viewport background. So I'll be referencing the viewport a lot in future lessons, so this is a terminology that would be really helpful. You can see that the viewport has its own set of menus that I was using earlier called View, Shading, Lighting, Show, Renderer, and Panels. And you can see that I was using the shading menu earlier on to toggle between wireframe and shaded modes. There are hotkeys for this, but again, for clarity, I am using the menus instead of hotkeys. You can see that I just went to Mesh Tools and got the Add Vertex edge. So this allows me to add edges on the fly. So I'm going to extrude that edge I just created. I'm going to extrude it outwards to make a nice rim that you probably see on your cups back home. Again, this is called the Add Edge tool, or Create Edge. or slice edge, something of that sort. I would recommend rewinding if you want to make sure you saw the correct menu I selected to make that edge. But I'll be doing that again later, so if you didn't catch it the first time, then just stay tuned. And right now I'm fiddling with selecting a ring of edges, so you can see that I selected a ring by clicking it, then double clicking while holding down shift. Some combination of that. And that just gives me a bit of faster performance when doing these sorts of things. I want to go back to mesh tools, slice edge tool, which is what I did earlier on. And I'm going to slice the handle of the mug. And I'm going to be doing something similar with what I did earlier, but with the edge. I'm going to be using this to round the handle of the mug because most mugs in real life aren't that pointy. Maya has this cool feature called the subdivision tool that allows you to automatically add more divisions to all your faces. The problem with this, if you happen to abuse it, is that it exponentially increases the number of faces of your mesh, which may be a problem if you do this too much because it'll just take a lot longer to display the mesh and then render it, because just imagine all those face intersections that the renderer has to do to properly display your object. So this is just a FYI, but it can be useful in some situations. I know that I want the rest of my mug to be pointy, so I'm just going to manually round what I need to be rounded. You can see that I'm selecting the edges along the side of the handle, and then I'm using the scale tool to shrink them, and that allows me to make it round. And the reason why it's round is because I added that edge earlier on with the add edge tool, and because of this extra geometry, that gives me the flexibility to round the mug handle. And you can see it's not completely round, but it's getting rounder. Something that might have been better is if I made a cylinder for the handle, which is already really round, bended it with a deformer, and then connected the edges to the mug. This is something that is also quite an option. That menu you just saw right there can be accessed by holding down your space button. It's I think it's called the hot box or hot menu. It's a very handy menu that has things like perspective, recently used commands, and the like. I might be using that more often in the future. It's very handy to use, especially because of the recently used commands. You can see right now that I'm going to be selecting the inner edges and doing the same thing like I did earlier with the shrinking to make it round. You can see that because I was in a hurry when I made this, I warped the side of the mug such that it's no longer straight. So this is something that I would watch out for later on. And something I could do to get around this is instead of selecting all the edges, I could select only the innermost edges so that it wouldn't affect the edges connected to the mug. So now I'm going to be doing the same thing on this side, selecting all those innermost edges, and I will be shrinking them to create that nice round edge. Or expanding in this case. Alrighty, it's looking pretty good. So if you guys have followed or watched until this point, congratulations for learning how to make a cup or a mug or whatever your heart desires. Really hope you guys enjoyed this, and see you guys in club later on.